Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, Eric. How are you?
Doing all right. We are getting ready for Hanukkah, which occurs later this week.
Yeah, we haven't talked since before Thanksgiving, so I hope everybody out there had a wonderful Thanksgiving and is finished digesting their turkey and looking forward to all the fixings for this month.
Yeah, we've got no shortage of holidays this month, of course. And it is now the holiday season. We've got Christmas trees going up, Hanukkah menorahs being lit, and hopefully everybody is going to get to spend some time with family and friends and enjoy the season.
Yep, and have a little peace. Everybody take a time out and let's have some
Yeah.
peace this month.
And of course, after the holidays, we head into the new year. And we should, if you're not already, be preparing for that new year, both in your personal life and your business. And that's a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today. We have a special guest, Gabe O'Neil, who's got a tool that helps people in their business. And we're going to talk about that a little bit and overcoming some adversity and all the good things that will come in the new year. So, Gabe, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Eric and Chip. I appreciate you having me here. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. So, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so my name is Gabe O'Neil. I'm also widely known as the godfather of the digital business card. Funny story, when we moved to Atlanta about 5 years ago, or maybe even longer than that, I was just using networking to get to know people. We moved again, and then I thought, oh man, it takes so long for people to get to know you. So how can I expedite this process? So I decided to give them something of value without asking anything in return. Give them something that we could break the ice with it. They get to see my work ethic, my creative. They get to see that I follow through on things I say I'm going to do, which is important. So I ended up giving them a free digital business card, and that took off. I actually did that for about a year. So that's kind of how I got into this, creating custom digital business cards for people. It was kind of just as a just almost an accident. Well, where I've been a software developer for a number of years, and I was a consultant at the time. Now, totally focusing on digital business cards, just kind of because of the way it kind of fell out. So,
Yeah, I mean, you really didn't talk as much as you could have about your accomplishments and what your background is. But I mean, basically, if you think of people about Bill Gates and companies like Sony, Panasonic, and Computer Associates, you've been involved with all of those. So where you are right now as a result of your technical background and your contacts and so on and so forth is really no accident. And obviously one of your main focuses is your social enterprise network too. So tell us a little bit about that, because obviously, you're doing this and it's a good for profit company, but you are doing so much good in this world by what you're doing and have been for a long, long time.
well, I appreciate that. So to be clear, what Chip is referring to, there's a couple of things. Two members of my family started nonprofits at separate times. The first one was my dog Charlie. In 2004, he started a pet therapy group called Wags for Hope, and which still exists in Maryland, by the way. And when I say that with all sincerity, in other words, if it wasn't for that dog, that um, that organization would not exist. Just a quick story. I was selfishly wanted to showcase him because Bernese Mountain Dogs are just beautiful dogs, and I said, "Oh man, I got to show off this dog. Where can I go?" So I called the local nursing home. And I said, "What do I have to do to get him certified so I can come in and visit?" She says, "Come down and fill out an application. Bring the dog." So the dog was about 4 months old at the time, and so I did it. And before 2 minutes, I just fill out my name and address, and we're walking around the place. So that was a big hit. So I did that for about a year until there was a virus and I couldn't visit there. So they asked me to visit next door, the assisted living facility. And when I did that, I was really scared because Charlie was much bigger at this time and his bark was very threatening. So I didn't know what he was going to do. So he walked in, he yelled over the loudspeaker, "There's a huge, big black dog in the lobby." And I looked down the wings and all the doors started open and all the wheelchairs started coming out and all the walkers started coming out and they were just kind of converging on him. And I was a little bit nervous, but he looked up to me and said, as if to say, "Don't worry, I got this." And he sat down and they just all petted him. They're all saying, "When are you coming back?" And then that was it when I realized that we needed help in doing that. So we got our neighbors involved and then we started, but literally he started that group. The other one that you're talking about is Kids Are Heroes. My daughter started that one about 2 years after Wags for Hope was going. And that was, she just wanted to end all, she heard in kindergarten that they were going to lose, that all the animals were going to be extinct, and she wanted to stop it. So she asked me to build her a website. So I said, well, as long as we're helping animals, let's help people in the environment too. So what we ended up doing was showcasing children who have who did either gave up their business, their birthday gifts, or maybe they raised money for something. But what was different about us is everybody in that time was running contests for kids, like whoever does the most will showcase them. We had kids who had drilled water wells in 20 countries, but we showcased the other kids with the same brush, the ones who gave up their birthday gifts for the animal shelter. And we ended up having 500 stories on our website, and we ended up having from 19 countries, and it just goes on and on from there. So sadly, when we moved to Atlanta, we kind of ran out of we just didn't have the connections and the funding. But that's I would be doing that if I could get it funded. So anyway, that's kind of puts those two things in perspective.
Nice. And of course, with all of this, you also started the digital business card business that you have. Now, of course, being on audio, we can't actually show one of the cards, but why don't you give a description so that our listeners have an idea of what sets your card apart? Because I'm sure most of our listeners have seen digital business cards, but most of them are a physical card that you scan or it's connected to your phone in some way. Yours is different.
Right. Well, so most of there's the cards that have, like the dot card, for example, where you tap the phone and that kind of comes up. And I've been hurt. I have a lot of customers who gave those up and came to me. But the bottom, and there's the other cards that you have to, you give an obscure URL to get to it. But whatever you think about digital cards, just throw that all out. And all I can tell you is that we customize each card from scratch. And when I say customize, I mean we get your logo, your headshot, and your website colors, even a branding guide. And I send it off to my graphic artist, and she builds something beautiful to stand out. And that's the number one. That's what we're trying to do, is not to get your Wikipedia out there like a lot of the other ones are doing. We're there to make an impression so that people don't forget you. So they will think of you when it comes to your business, and then they will give you referrals. The other part of it is the delivery method. So you can actually get my card by texting the word Gabe, Gabe, to the number 321-421-5213. And when you get my card, my card will be delivered to you. And when that happens, we also capture your cell phone number. And you can opt out at any time, which is like we don't spam you or do anything like that. But you can opt out, or you can stay connected with us and learn about all the other stuff that we do. Plus, my schedule's right on my card. And that way, the only reason why I say that is to do that is because then you'll experience why our card is so different. You'll see a splash video on the front of it that's very, very different. It's very unique. But it's designed to, it's designed to get you business. And when you teach other people your keyword number, then you get referrals from them a lot easier. So there's really a lot of layers to that onion.
Yeah, from what you showed me, the card itself is essentially a mobile website, a mobile friendly website. So you have all of the features on there that a website has, which of course you can't put on a print card.
Correct. I call it a microsite because it's not, a website, people can get lost in it. They get overwhelmed with all the different menu items. It's just one page that always fits in the real estate of the phone or of the computer. And it has all your important information, but it is a landing page. And then and from there, you can click on all the different links. You can watch the video of the person. You can download a white paper if that person has one, and to exchange an email information. But again, it's the looks of it that when the typical reaction when people see either my card or any one of my clients' cards, it's, oh wow, I've never seen anything like this. There really isn't anything else like this on the market. That's why ours, when people hear digital business cards, say, yeah, I tried one, they didn't really work, they didn't really do anything for me. I wouldn't even be able to tell you how to access it. But when they see ours, then they go, okay, now I get it, because we even have a CRM in the back, in the background. When you capture their cell phone number, it actually goes to that CRM, or it can actually go to Go High Level or HubSpot. So there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of stuff underneath it, where our focus is creating something that actually gets you business and has an ROI to it. So that's kind of where we are with that.
Now, you had said you initially were giving this away. You just wanted to provide a value, but how did you come about with the idea that this was what you wanted to give away?
Well, it was funny because I was thinking, well, what can I do to expedite the process of people getting to know me? And, I had a digital business card of my own at the time that I created. It was a PDF file. And I looked at it and I said, well, this is no good. You can't share it. At the time, you had to have a special reader and all that. And so it was just something that I thought that it would take me a few hours to work on, which is what I was willing to do. It would actually showcase the thing about it is that it really marries a lot of my skills. Like Chip had mentioned, that I've been doing a lot of technical stuff for a lot of technical companies, but at the same time, through those two charities, I had to learn marketing. We ended up with the Kids Are Heroes. We ended up getting my daughter on the Ricky Lake show through Twitter. I ended up meeting Richard Branson. That was also through Twitter. But that was because I was learning marketing, and we did a lot of videos as well. So I have all these skills that I really wanted to marry. And so I thought, well, if I do a digital business card, I did the in the beginning, I did everything, the graphics and the software and everything that they needed for it. So that's how we kind of fell into it. And I did that for an entire year. And the their colleagues wanted, I'm in the same company as this other guy in the mortgage company. He wants one too. So I said, well, okay, maybe I'll start selling them. But the funny part of that is I never thought anybody would pay for them. And so I thought, well, this is great, but nobody's gonna want to buy them. And so people wanted to buy them. And I said, okay, great. But I charged them like $100 or something. And I said, but nobody's going to really want to pay enough where it's going to make it worth my while. And then all of a sudden I started to think, so wait a minute, where's this talk coming from? It's coming from me. It's called a glass ceiling that I'm putting over my own head. And once I pulled that apart and said, you know what, I can sell this to companies, I can sell it to teams, and they can really get a huge ROI from it. Then I decided to go all in with focusing on it as a product and at that point I could have said, okay, well, I can do websites, I can do anything you want because I have those skills. But I said, no, I want to build the best digital business card out there and continue to focus on that, continually tweak it and make it better. So that's kind of where we are now.
Yeah, you did mention in your write-up that the effect kind of that the pandemic had in 2020, and that this was initially popular, but all of a sudden it's blasted off to be a worldwide phenomena. The things that you're doing, obviously, because the technology is there, because the pandemic, even though we physically had a distance, it opened up a whole new world of prospects for a lot of different businesses. So talk a little bit about the effect there, because it looks like that's when things really started exploding for you.
Well, that was the funny part, because prior to the pandemic, I mean, we even have a badge that people can wear, and it's with a QR code that you go out. So I was doing that every weekday. I was going out to all these different networking events and spending, most of the day in the car, sometimes not getting home till 10 o'clock at night, and just going to all these different networking events. And then, and I started my business in October of 2019. So October, November, great. Or September, October, great. November, December, see me after the holidays. January, February, great. March was the pandemic, because I'll never forget that month, because everything just dropped, right? You couldn't go
Yep.
out, period. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So, and that's really where I learned I really learned what an entrepreneur is from that particular time. Because I could have said, you know what, my business is dead. I got to go find something else. Let me see if I can get a job at Walmart or something like that. But I pivoted. I discovered that they have these meetings online, and they have this thing called Zoom, and there's these things called breakout rooms. And I started doing that, and then I realized, I said, oh, this breakout room thing, this is genius. I'm going to create my own. And I did. I had a networking group that had, at one point in time, there were like 85 people there, or whatever. I did that for an entire year until I got burned out from that. But that's what I'm exclusively doing virtual meetings, and now selling them across the country. And that's what's really kind of fun for me. And I'm kind of proud of that. When I hear that somebody in Phoenix is in a meeting with somebody else in Phoenix, and they run into each other in person, and they both have their badge on. Oh, Gabe. Oh, yeah, that's really cool. That something like that is just really, really, it tickles me. I just think that's really cool.
That's fantastic. It's really great that, you can connect with people. You were able to pivot during the pandemic, which, so many people had to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you had hit, how long had you been in Atlanta at the time the pandemic hit?
We moved to Atlanta in about 2015. My daughter was a senior in high school, and that was a challenge. But yeah, about 3 years.
All right, so
4 years.
Yeah, so you had basically pivoted to move down there, and then had to pivot again. And you've had a couple of pivots along the way. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you down to Atlanta?
Okay, pivot is a really nice word for what brought me down here, because it was much more of a disaster than anything else. But I'd been working for a company for 16 years, and of course, I had a lot of stock in it. The idea is when they sell the company, make all kinds of money. It was, it was my investment, and over time, I kind of got distracted by the charities that I was working on, because I was putting a lot of time in there, and that didn't bother them. But I wasn't looking at the writing on the wall that this company really wasn't gonna do anything. And finally, they just told me, well, we don't have enough money to pay you, and that's it. So no more checks, no more nothing. No, here's no, not even any kind of, forget a golden parachute. No parachute. Just kick you out of the plane and see what you do from there. So and the reason why we moved to Atlanta is because we had been having these yearly events that children were coming from all around the world to be with us in a celebration. It was almost like a trade show for kids where they showcased all their stuff. And this was the first time we had it at a convention center, which we had it at the Cobb Galleria here in Atlanta. And I'd met this guy on Twitter who wanted to support us with that. And I said, well, if I'm going to be out of work, let's just go near this event, because I want to be near the event, and because it was very important to me. We had done it for about 7 years, and so we moved without even thinking. We just moved here, and it's really quite fortunate that we found a place that has such great networking, because in Atlanta, there's a lot of towns that are right around the city. So there's Marietta, there's Kennesaw, there's Roswell, there's all these real entities that all have great networking. And so that's kind of how we got started. So that was and so I came down here I was really trying to get the charity to pay for my living, so I could just keep doing that. But I wasn't very good at raising money, and my wife kept saying, "Why are you going to these networking meetings with your Kids Are Here shirt on? We need you to get software work." And she was right. Finally, I ended up ditching those shirts, and my daughter was getting ready to go to college, so it was kind of time for that to time to retire Kids Are Heroes, for at least for that time. And so that's kind of where, and then so I ended up getting software work, and that's what happened. So I'd done that, but when we had to move again, because our landlord, he decided that he was sick. Well, he didn't decide it. He was sick, and he told us he had to move into the house and live with his son. So, and of course, we have to find a house with a fenced-in yard for the dog. That was the number one priority of getting another house, was for the dog gets the priority. So we moved an hour away, and we lost all our networking buddies. So I said, that's when I decided I had to do something different. So we kind of fell into the digital card business that way. So yeah, it's been, but what I learned about that was, especially with the pandemic, because you can go through something like that. I'd never been through anything like that, where we couldn't, in Maryland, we couldn't pay the mortgage, and I mean, just really bad stuff that a lot of people went through. And I was in my late 40s, probably 50s, where nothing like that had ever happened to me. I'd always been going from job to job, getting raises, going up higher and higher and up the escalator and all that. And then finally, I started experience real personal trauma. And the thing about that is it's just something I had never experienced before. But really what I started to learn was, as an entrepreneur, guess what? That stuff it's not unusual. And nobody's selecting you and picking you out and say you have to suffer. There's nothing that's saying, oh, there's no reason to say, oh, why is this happening to me? Guess what? It happens to everybody. It happens to a lot of people. And so the way you get around that is you learn how to pivot. And that's really what happened. That's when the pandemic hit, I thought, oh, come on, I'm finally getting somewhere where I want to be. And now you're hitting me with this. But then I said, oh, that's a normal thing to happen to entrepreneurs. And I got to figure out a way to pivot. And guess what? That's not going to be the last thing that's going to hit my business. Something else is going to happen. Yep. And now I'm ready, so that the next time something happens, I'm just instantly, okay, how do I figure this out? So that's one real cool real deep lesson that I learned from that whole situation.
Yeah, we talk a lot about mindset on this podcast, and what you're talking about is a very good example. Generally, difficulties hit everybody. Doesn't matter what walk of life you are, if you're a business owner, if you're not a business owner, we all go through these difficulties. Mm-hmm. And what really sets people apart is that decision. Are you going to just curl up in a ball and give up, or are you going to find a way to deal with it and move forward?
Absolutely. And I will say that one of my driving forces was the fact that, our only child, her name is Mary Margaret. She's the one who started the Kids Are Heroes effort. And my entire, as she was growing up, I'm one of her role models besides her mom. And I just wanted to show her that no matter what we went through, because she went through it with us, she got pulled out of private school in Maryland and got stuck into a huge, a public school here in rural Georgia, which was a huge culture shock for her. So she experienced everything that we did, but I wanted to show her that no matter how many times I got hit, no matter what happened, no matter we're short of money, this, that, and the other thing, I'm never going to stop. I'm always going to push forward, and that's, I think that's really, but it was because of her that I wanted to show her that. So she kind of helped me along that route, and thankfully, we're never out of the woods. There's always something, but if you learn how to deal with it that way, it's not as traumatic when it happens, because you don't just sit and think of, oh, come on. You don't have that anymore. You just go, okay, how do I fix this?
That's it. It's all about how you look at it. I think in our previous conversation, I had said this. It's a line from one of the Rocky movies. It's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it took me a while to realize that, because we can all lick our wounds and feel sorry for ourselves and all that good stuff. But I think it was a good thing. And it's funny when I look back, oh, you took your kid out of senior high school and took her from Maryland to rural Georgia and all these bad things that happened. Well, now she actually found the pop culture world down here. She loves all these shows that are put on Netflix and all that. So she started out going and visiting the sets. Then she became a background actor in Stranger Things and all these other shows. Now she's a casting director for Central Casting, and actually one of the best. She's actually only been there like 2 years, and they is highly recognized as the best employee that they have in that organization. As a matter of fact, she brings in huge Marvel movies to that organization that never would have used that company if it wasn't for her. So, and then I'm doing something that I'm having the most fun of my life with this, because again, I'm using all my skills and all the different skills that I have, plus the fact that I just lost my train of thought there, but it's just something that I'm just really, really happy in what I'm doing. Or the thing that I wanted to say was that I've always wanted to provide value to people, in anything that I do. When I work for, whether it be Sony or Panasonic or any of those companies, I never wanted my software to just sit on the shelf and not be used. And this is the same thing. I know that my software, what I build for people, I know that it gets them business. And when I hear those stories, it just tickles me, and that's part of my pay, actually. So,
hey, well, we are coming up on the end of our time. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, get your business card, see what it can do for them, how can they do that?
have them text the word Gabe to the number 321-421-5213. It's as simple as that. You'll get my card. I'll get your information, and we can connect right from there.
And that's Gabe, Gabe.
Yes.
All right. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
Wow. This is when I first saw your website. Obviously, you've had an amazing ride, and you've definitely had some downs with the ups and so on and so forth. I think it's pretty appropriate that Eric brought up Rocky at the end of this, because you've been through a few rounds. Your story is truly, truly inspirational. And, for all of you that are out there, I mean, we have been talking recently about planning for 2024 and so on and so forth, and working on yourself. And that's the most important thing. I mean, you brought up the word pivot, and you have had a lot of punches thrown at you, but you've always had that drive in there. You've had the inspiration of your family and everything else that you're doing to do these different things. And one of the things, obviously, that's close to Eric's and my heart is the word networking, because networking, once you do your own homework, I mean, basically, it's not just going to happen. You've done a lot of work, and a lot of different ways and so on and so forth. So you're prepared for everything that happened. And so whatever happened, maybe you just kind of fell into it, but you already had the expertise and the drive to get into that. So for those of you out there, what do you want to do next year? What is your purpose and so on and so forth? And then if you can put together those things that you want to do, we all got together through networking. Eric and I, one-to-one probably 15 years ago. Gabe, you came to me through my good friend Melissa, who's from Southington, but all over the world doing what she's doing. And the networking thing is unbelievable. And what you're doing is tying everybody together very, very simply by doing that. So for all of you who are out there, get organized, get some people working with you, because obviously you've had a lot of influences in your life. And by doing things virtually, you're going to have a lot bigger field to do that. But if you do the planning, you put your own inspiration into it, and you have the drive to do things, networking is the way to go. I really highly recommend getting involved with this. So definitely take Gabe up on his offer to get your digital card and get going with that stuff. But thanks so much for being here. You are truly inspirational. It's just a great way to end this year and start next year.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Gabe. I think for me, the big takeaway is the fact that you didn't give up. No matter what hit, no matter what changes you went through, no matter what you had to do, you kept moving forward. And that's the big takeaway. That's what people need to do. Again, it's all about that forward momentum. And we're all going to go through difficulties. It's not that, life is targeting you. It happens to all of us, and we just need to keep moving forward. So thanks for being here, Gabe.
Thanks again.
You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.